Yeah, well, okay, so you asked how do we respond, or how do you respond to a person that's just went through that, or how do you not make them feel condemned or hurt people's feelings that have maybe went through that? Going back to what I was talking about my family member, most of the times, well, from that perspective, they're already there as far as regret.
Yeah.
They're already there as far as condemning themselves. They already feel like, what did I just do? Was this the right choice? Like, they're already there. And so I just, it's like, I guess the comfort comes in there to get them back together, get them back to where they can stand on their own. And then maybe come in with that, okay, now do you understand what you just did and how devastating it was? Like, learning from your mistake. Do you know what you just did? Like, you're together, you're processing now. Now let's go back over what just happened. And then I also want to hit on it, being there for them before it. Like, being there with them and talking with them. Like, let's talk about this.
It should be a safe environment.
Let's talk about this before you do it. My family, we're very close, and so it was a lot of conversing before this happened. And it was just like, are you sure? You don't want to, you don't want to bash someone over the head. Like, don't do it. But it's just like, are you sure you want to? Like, you just being there for them, trying to get them before they do it.
Yeah.
And really, like, get into them. Like, look, you don't want to do this. This, and this. Bringing out the statistics. This, and this. Like, let's talk about this. I'll be there for you. And I think support, is a lot of, has a lot to do with it too. Because a lot of people feel like, I'm not going to have anybody help me.
Yeah.
I have to take care of this child. You say you'll help me, but you may have other stuff to do in your life. I have to be with this child. I have to rearrange myself for this child.
So what do you say, to, the best way to not have an abortion is to not get pregnant. Mm-hmm. And in the generation we live in, now she just back to Portia, the generation we live in says sex is cool. Mm-hmm. I can have as much sex as I want when I want to do it with whomever I want to do it with. Reverence for marriage is almost non-existent. Saving yourself till you're married, or that even line of thinking seems, maybe old-fashioned, or that's ridiculous.
Yeah, impossible.
It's impossible. How do I know I'm gonna like being with this person if I hadn't been with this person?
The test driving, right?
Car test driving. Test driving the car.
Yeah.
And I have my own words I want to speak to that, but what would you say to that, Portia? And then I want to get back to, Asmi, you said some strong words with saying, hey, let's call it what it is, murder. Mm-hmm. And there's people that will drastically disagree with that. Oh, yeah. Atheists would say it's just a zygote. Wow, you can't murder it if it's not even alive. Others would say, at what point do we count it alive, right? Because initially there was like, you could only be 4 weeks, 6 weeks pregnant and get an abortion. Then it's like, now we have late term abortions. And there's a place actually now where if the abortion is botched and the baby is born, they don't have to give it medical attention.
Yeah.
So they can just let it die. So it's like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if they try to abort the baby and for some reason it doesn't work, and say the baby's born, because certain places you can basically terminate the baby almost like you'd be delivering it almost, and you can still terminate. You can
change your mind in labor, pretty much.
And so, but if it's botched, the baby's still born, they don't have to give it attention. They can just let it die. And I heard. It may have been Sissy Graham. I think she has a podcast, and she was saying at that point, you're not aborting, because technically aborting a baby or terminating a pregnancy, you can either do it by, abortion or having the baby, because once you've had the baby, your pregnancy is terminated naturally because you're no longer pregnant. Right. So at that point, you're not trying to terminate a pregnancy, you're just trying to murder something. Yeah. So I want to come back to that, and I want to come back to what about the people that say just because I go, at what point is actually not just cells and fluid, at what point will we call it a baby? So I want to get into the weeds because you said murder, and I'm sure a lot of people's antennas went up. So let's not just leave that floating out there. Let's dig that out. But I don't. What was my question to you? I went down the rabbit trail with murder. I was like, you know.
Talking about, I guess, basically to prevent abortion, just not getting pregnant.
Yes, abstinence. What do you say to all of the, and I want you to look in the camera and talk about abstinence, to all of the 18-year-olds that are going to think you're ridiculous.
Oh, my goodness.
And who's better to talk about abstinence than someone that didn't have sex until they was married?
There you go.
Yeah.
So talk to your comrades.
I just admire you. And
yeah.
Thank you. I would definitely say,
is it old fashioned? Is it ridiculous?
No, do it.
What's the blessing of it?
Oh, blessing.
As I eat my popcorn.
It comes in growing up in high school. I saw the different things that females and males went through by doing it. You know, sex is meant to be in marriage. That's how God intended for it. You know, in the biblical days, sex was the confirming that you two were together, that you were married in God's eye. So not only, you know, do you feel like you're not ready to get married at a certain age when you're young, but you're still coming into learning who God has for you to become. And that is, to me, an adult thing to do, is have sex. You have to be mature, you know, and when you do it without being mature, it just brings so many different things on you that you're not ready for. Abortion, you know, like it brings so many different psychological things that you don't have to go through by simply just saying, I'm not going to do it. No matter who's pressuring you into do it, don't even put yourself in situations where, you know, if you know a dude, and I guess it's for the females and the males, because there are some females that press males to do it. And the male's like, no, I'm good. And they're like, I want it and all that stuff. If you're with someone or you know someone that is pressing you, you don't need to be with them. They're not who, I don't care if you're looking for attention. I don't care if you're looking for love. You don't need to be with them because that's not love and that's not, it's attention, but it's the wrong attention. So the blessing out of waiting, God has blessed me with the husband that I wanted, that I prayed for.
Boss move.
Like inside and out, everything about him is what I prayed for. We got married quickly, but it was all God based, all on God time.
She wasn't pregnant. Moved. That's why.
I was not.
Yeah, people like, well, she must have been pregnant.
No, we met in November and we got married in February.
But y'all are like purpose mates. So
yes.
I truly believe that it's all purpose. It's all intentional. You have to, well, from what I'm learning from a lot of mistakes and stuff that I made, I won't even say mistakes, they've been blessings to me, but you have to lay your purpose down under him. Yes. And that's the one thing that it's submitting. Like, I'm submitting my purpose to your purpose because I trust you with my life. I trust you with everything. And one thing that I wanted to say about having sex, it's not just the physical, it's you get spiritually transmitted demons and all sorts of things that are transmitted to you. A lot of people want to think about AIDS. If that don't stop you, and STDs and all that, pregnancy, if those things don't stop you, you pick up basically what that person is, who they've been with, every entity, every spirit they've been with. You're going to have it. You may not see it right away, because I myself have done, I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's all good. But no, later you will see, you will have insecurities that person had. And what's crazy is that we even brought this to the Lord. I was like, why can't I get the good qualities? Why is it that I've gotten the bad? But because the entities, the demons that people battle, you're taking that in with you. And you leave that person, you may never see them again, but if you see them in a room, they will change your whole spirit, your whole atmosphere, because there's a connection when you're married that God wanted to be in place when you have sex with someone, and it's a oneness. It's a form of worship. Sex is a complete form of worship. You're submitting to each other physically. You're doing it spiritually, whether you want to believe it or not. People may think that I'm crazy, and when I explain it, you know, people that have had sex, they're like, you're right. And it's true, because even me, myself, have experienced these things, and I've researched, because I'm like, why am I having nightmares? Why am I having these thoughts? If someone has been suicide or addiction, you having sex with them, you're opening the door for yourself to be experiencing and fighting those demons on top of the ones that you're probably having to fight, generational cursings behind you, and the ones you pick up along your experience in your life. So yeah, that's one thing that I really want you to think about, that I explain to my children, because we're here to break generational cursings into blessings. And having sex aside of AIDS don't scare you. STDs or a child, think about the spirits that you're picking up. If someone's suicidal, you're going to be battling those thoughts.
Don't do it.
and just to piggyback on that, as I just review over my notes here, I had an illustration years ago that someone put out, and it was pretty awesome, because it was, if you sleep with someone, you've been sleeping with 2 or 3 or 4 or 50, whatever they have, right? But that person slept with someone, they've slept with 10 people. The 10 people they slept with, slept with 10 people. 10 people those people slept with 10 people. So when you slept with this person, you really slept with like 7, and it was staggering. You go, they're like 780 people or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, and then that person sleeping with you is sleeping with like 780 people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's insane. So, I like I'm going to use that, STD, spiritually transmitted demons. So one thing that abstinence will never give you is herpes. One thing abstinence will never give you is AIDS, right? One thing abstinence will never give you is an ungodly soul tie. So to all the people that think sex is fun right now, sex is fun. Sex is amazing inside of the covenant of marriage, right? I never sleep with my wife and then I'm nervous the next day thinking, man, did I get something? Is she pregnant? That stuff will suck the joy out of the intimacy, and trust me, many a relationship has been ruined when the other person contracts something or someone gets pregnant, and then you have to go with that. Dora, let's talk about your experience and where you were when you had your abortion, the mindset, the circumstances, and the pressures that may have been on you to have your abortion.
Okay. I found out I was pregnant in February of 2009. I was 19, a couple weeks away from turning 20. And when I first found out, I was nervous. But I remember thinking that I could make things work. I really loved my then boyfriend. I look back now and I realized that it wasn't love. It was just, I was obsessed. I didn't know what love was, but I was willing to do anything for him. And so I was willing to make it work. And I remember I called over some friends of mine, and I told them that I was pregnant. And I asked them, whatever I say or do, just promise me you won't let me have an abortion. And I think about that back, and I'm like, why would I even say that? Was it already the fear kicking in? Because I wasn't even considering abortion, but the fact that I said that to my friends was I just wanted to be accountable. I wanted to be held accountable, and I was already thinking, if he pressures me, I need someone to tell me no, have a child. And so they left. They promised me they would. I called my boyfriend over, and when I tell him, hey, I'm pregnant, how are we going to tell our parents? And he responded with, there's other options. And I was just very disappointed because I thought he loved me. And what you had mentioned, men that value you and love you, they will support you, and they will say, let's get this, I'll be here for you and I'll support you through this. And, this is something that was an outcome or result of our love together. Let's do this. But that wasn't the case at all. And so I didn't tell him yes right away. And so we went over to his apartment that night, and he was there with his roommate and 3 other guys. And we decided to tell them the news. And so as soon as we told them the news, I literally spent the rest of that evening in a room of 4 guys who sat down and told me that abortion was my only option. And so it was literally at least I don't even know how many hours, that was it. They're just telling me I'm too young. I have my whole life ahead of me. I can't make the money. I can't make ends meet. And so it started really seeding fear,
negatively influenced.
Yeah. And then rewind a little bit. When I found out I was pregnant, I was by myself at my parents' house. They were at work, and my brother was there. And I told him. He was the very first person I told. And I'm not trying to put any condemnation or guilt on anybody. I love my brother. But being the older brother, you know, he got really upset and he like punched the window and it broke. And I got really scared, you know, because I was like, if that's how my brother responded, like, how are my parents going to respond? So that was like the beginning, you know? So then the boyfriend starts saying that, these boys start saying that. And I'm just kind of like, okay, this is probably what I have to do. So basically I was pressured, which is very normal. I'm big on stats. So it's like 64% of women who abort are pressured into having an abortion. And so I was part of that statistic. And I had an abortion. I did the pill form. And when I took the first dose, there's 2 sets of doses that you take. The first one at the clinic. And the first dose is to cut off the nutrition supply to your baby. So basically starving out your baby. And then you go home and in the comfort, you know, I say comfort, of your own home, you take the second, which is supposed to terminate the actual, your baby. And they tell you like, oh, it's just mild cramping and it's like a period, you know, that's it. Oh, you know, so you're going into this completely ignorant. And on top of that, they don't give you alternative options. They don't talk to you about anything. And so I went to my boyfriend's apartment and I remember putting in those pills, letting them dissolve in my mouth. And it was like within 15 minutes, like I had to go in the bathroom, lock myself in there, and it was just full on contractions.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And I know now that they're contractions because now I have 2 boys. Yes. And when I was in labor, I was like, this is exactly what I was experiencing.
Yes. So you were still happy.
Pretty much. Yeah, you're forcing your body to have the baby prematurely. I mean, that's what you're doing. And I was really ashamed the apartment was small, super small apartment. And being in that bathroom, the guys were there. And I was so ashamed and I was like in so much pain. Like you mentioned, you thought you were dying. I thought I was dying too. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if y'all seen the movie Unplanned, but there's a scene, and if you haven't, I recommend you watch it so you see the truth of what abortion is. But there's a scene where she takes the pill form. And that whole scene in that movie where she's in the bathroom, there's blood everywhere, there's tissue, there's clots, there's just, it's gory. But I had friends ask me, like, is that real? Like, is that exaggerated for movie purposes? And I'm like, no, that's exactly what it is, you know? And there was blood everywhere. Like, I was cleaning it. I literally had to grab a towel and, like, bite down on it so that the guys out the door would not hear me scream. It was really bad. And so after that...
They don't tell you that in the advertisement, right?
They don't tell you that. And they don't even prepare you for that. And it's like, look, like, if you're going to have a woman have an abortion, at least be honest to what they can expect.
Like the side effects on the commercials and all that. They don't do that.
They don't do any of that.
You might have swelling in the throat, all this stuff. They don't want to take it anymore.
Right.
They don't do that.
But that's the reason. Because if they were to be forthcoming and honest, that's business. You know, that's business that they're losing.
Business. It's completely like, it's just, abortion, I believe it's just there because it's always like it's something that it's going to be there. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm praying. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's what it is. It's of the enemy, and the name of Jesus may not always be there. But I'm saying, like, there's always gonna be someone that's gonna be like, okay.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it roots down. The enemy's using them, that's for sure. But it roots down to business because they're profiting. They're selling the baby parts. You know, it's ridiculous what they're doing. And so then after I did the abortion,
so let's not bypass that. So I walked into a hospital once, and it was this was in the middle of the hospital. This wasn't hidden off somewhere. And it was talking about basically your baby parts and afterbirth. The hospital wants that. And I don't remember if the hospital was saying donate it to us or we'll pay you for it.
Like the placenta and all that?
It was too gory for me to go into. But I remember looking at it and just being like, wow, this is a business, you know, taking this stuff and it is a business for the hospital. And I do know that they get like the placenta and all that stuff. They can get make medicine or something from it. So I don't know if they're trying to make medicine out of all of it and
they're trying to save life, but somehow take it from some life.
So what do you say? And for those that don't know, a few facts for you. 1973, Roe versus Wade, right? A state had said it was, you know, having an abortion at a certain point was illegal. Roe versus Wade said it was also unconstitutional for that state to impose that law. It was not Roe versus Wade that dictated the terms of abortion. That was a case that came later that decided the terms of what became life-threatening. So say, hey, if it wasn't life-threatening, you can't have an abortion. Roe versus Wade said, yes, you can have an abortion. And later another case came and decided what those terms were. And the terms went something like, if your life is in danger, if your way of living basically is in danger, if your emotional state is in danger, basically you be able to come up with any idea or any reason, basically is what it to have an abortion you could. Let's circle back around to murder. What do you tell the people that say, hey, this isn't murder? It's not alive. It's not murder.
I would pray honestly for them to have a perspective of the way God sees life, the way He died for us. I mean, it's murder, and there's even blood involved. Clearly, there's a lot of blood involved. It's just murder. I mean, I don't know the exact definition of murder, which I'm gonna find out. But it's murder. I mean, you're taking a life. You're not killing a life. You're taking a life, and however you do it to take a life in court, you're taking a life.
Israel Houghton, the famous Christian singer who's made music sung all over the world, he was going to be aborted, and
I was too. My mother was going to abort him. And they wanted her to.
And with Israel Houghton, someone talked to his mother like a perfect stranger or something. It said something like, God, I forget the story. Like it was on the other side of the street and they walked over, or she ended up walking over to the other side, perfect stranger. And they told her something that made her not want to have the abortion. Like God loves you or something like that. And so she gave birth to Israel Houghton, who ended up singing kind of the world's gospel singer,
I believe that it starts with your seed. That the enemy is not after you, your husband. He's after your seed. Yeah. And my mom told me that everybody.
Someone told me that once.
Yeah, that my mom was influenced by everybody to not have me, and she said that she bit herself down, and she said, "No, I'm gonna have her." And she was young too, and every birthday, every holiday, I always tell her, "Thank you for giving me life," because everybody was against her.
Yeah.
But she still gave birth to me, and now I know why. Now I know why. Toy Roberts, the pastor, they wanted to abort him too.
Wow.
And now that I look at it, there's the people that were going to be aborted. And I think that's what makes me think now about the children that I did, the babies that I did abort. Like where they were going to bless my life tremendously. Where did I hinder myself? Where did I hinder the world?
Yeah.
So it's pretty deep for me.
I heard a pastor told me once, I was in, I want to say, Baton Rouge, and I went to this church, and I think they do altar call or just, hey, we just want to pray for you. So that people line up and they pray, and he says, the devil is after your seed. Yeah, and that stuck with me. Another thing that stuck with me is that, and I don't know the stats on this, but they say abortions are, and maybe Dora, are higher among minorities. So it's almost a form of genocide or extermination.
Yes.
When the higher abortions among, it's promoted. Planned Parenthood is really planned abortion, right? Yeah. How can you have a name like Planned Parenthood? They're not teaching you how to be a parent. They're teaching you to abort. So, go ahead.
I went in the other day to a Planned Parenthood, and I walked in, and it used to be a Planned Parenthood clinic where you get checked, right?
Yeah.
Appointments, whatever. Well, I walked in, and the room felt weird, and I was there. I was listening to Joel Osteen on my thing while I was waiting on my headset, my phone, and I kept looking around, and the lady said, "Oh, you're in the wrong office," and I was like. She's like, this is it was an abortion clinic. And I was like, and what was crazy is when I was sitting there hearing Joel Osteen, I was praying, and I was like, why am I praying? Like, what is going on? But when she told me that, I was like, oh, wow, okay. like I just went to the place where I was supposed to go. But when I was there, I was just like, should I have done something? Should I have? And playing Joel Osteen alone, I was probably.
And they're playing a preacher inside of the abortion clinic.
That's how I was like, God works in mysterious ways.
To those girls.
So yeah, like and it was just so sad. You know, it was boyfriends, a father, and then where I went to where I was supposed to go, and then there was a crying baby in there, and I was like, God, I wish that crying baby would have went into the clinic where I was. You know, just because I believe that when you put something in front of you, that you're standing in the decision, the cross, you know, where you're going to go. You take the right way, the wrong way, or you're going to take the way that you might regret. It just changes you. I think it changes your mind. It changes you. I think that anyone that can influence, and I think that's why I've always lived my life as YOLO. You know, like you only have one life. I don't believe that. But when I see people, I always say what I need to say. I don't want to hold back. And I wanted to say this too. So abstinence is refraining from sex. Celibacy or celibate is refraining from sex with a purpose, which is God. And that's why when I tell people what celibacy is, like celibate is you're waiting for your mate that the Lord has sent you. Abstinence is just refraining from doing something, not really with a purpose behind it. So celibacy, be celibate. Look into it. Celibacy it's a blessing. You break generational cursings in your family's bloodline, and we need that tremendously.
I forgot my original train of thought going to celibacy. Dora was talking about test driving the car.
That's said all the time.
Let me give you the problem, and it's funny because I was in Richmond, Virginia, and a pastor told me, like, he was like, man, I don't know if I could get married now in this crazy world and not test drive the car beforehand, you know.
Wow.
And this is the problem. There's a problem from the female side, and there's a problem from the male side. Let me speak from the male side. The problem from the male side with having multiple partners is if you like the way Sally did one thing and you like the way Susie did something else, then you marry Wanda, and Wanda doesn't do the thing that Sally and Susie did. Wanda's perfect in the way God made her. And you guys are going to grow and explore and then find out things that you like to do together. And ladies, always be open in your marriage. It will save your marriage. Don't tell you, I'm going to just go here for a quick second. Don't tell your man no. Another woman will say yes. And that sounds direct, but it is direct. I've done years of marriage counseling. There shouldn't be a barrier between you and your husband. Not saying y'all go to the store. Not saying y'all go to the store and y'all buy a bunch of crazy stuff. But I'm saying,
add a third person.
Or add a third person or something like that. But you two, with your natural bodies, you know, if you waited for each other, be happy and blissful and exploit each other.
Punch really quickly.
Yeah.
We talked about this one